party people. Well, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer, and this week on the show, I am joined once again by my good friend Russell Collins for a game of Tears of a Machine SC. Tears of a Machine is the mecha drama RPG of young adults coming of age amidst giant robot battles. You've heard us play the first edition of the game on the show, and let me tell you, the new edition of the game, which is currently on Kickstarter, is incredible. The dice system has been reworked. It is so fast and so cool and so fun and so neat, and I am so excited for it. You get to hear all about it in the game. I think it's a really great game. I think we really loved playing it. And you should go back the game on Kickstarter to make it a reality. In fact, one specific reason you should back the Kickstarter, not just because it's an amazing game that I want to see made into reality, is because alongside of the book, Russell is kickstarting an accessible audiobook version narrated by a murderer's row of incredible talented people, including about 1 billion people that you've heard before on Party of One, not least of which is me, is Jeff Stormer, this guy, the voice that you're hearing say these words. So yeah, I would really love to be involved in this project. I would really love to co-narrate this audiobook, and I would really love if you help make that happen. But I am not the only person on this project. There is a host of people that have been involved in the show before that you've heard. Amar Amaraz, Cole Burkhart, Brandon Leon Gambetta, Kat Cool, All My Fantasy Children co-host, Aaron Catano Saez, CJ Higgins. It is a murderer's row of people. It is an astounding lineup. And I really think that you should go check it out. Go back to Kickstarter, go make it happen, because it is an incredible project that I really, really want to be involved in. I really hope that you'll support it and make it a reality. You can find more about the Tears of a Machine SC Kickstarter in the show notes. A quick note before we dive in, a very special thank you to GrizzBiz, our newest backer on Patreon. Patreon backers get early access to new episodes. They get raw audio of recordings. They get the text of games and blog posts before they go live. Just a ton of stuff, occasionally bonus content when I have the time and feel like making bonus stuff. It's a great thing, and you should check it out. It's at patreon.com/JeffStormer. And with that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. This week, I am beyond excited. This is an overdue return to the show, frankly, which is entirely on me. But I am so excited to be welcoming back to the show Russell Collins. Russell, how the hell you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Getting a little bit of those pre-Kickstarter jitters where suddenly I'm looking at shipping costs and things and being oh no. But otherwise, feeling pretty positive about where things are going.
I'm very happy to hear that. I am excited. I am excited for this Kickstarter. I am excited for you. But real quick, before we talk too much about Kickstarter shipping and things, which I'm sure will come up in our conversation, why don't you take a moment and let the lovely listeners at home know about the Kickstarter that you are running, and also, on a related note, the game that we are playing this week.
Yes, okay. So this is the Tears of a Machine SC. It is my young adult drama meets giant robot combat role-playing game. I call it a mecha drama for short, because I think it's a fun thing to say.
It's a great term, frankly.
Yeah. It's sort of my entry into that world, really, of these stories of young people who are trying to sort of, grow up in a time of danger and strife, and they also happen to be responsible for protecting the world from attack by giant robots from space. You can probably figure out my influences relatively easily.
I can't imagine they could.
Yep. So yeah, Evangelion, Gundam, the sort of things you'd expect there. But I think I try to put more of a spin on it with the idea of really making sure that the personal attitudes and moods and so on of the characters are a big part of what goes into the robot fighting. That's always been my favorite feature of Evangelion in a way, is that a lot of it is about the psychology of the characters. And though I don't get too deep into the tortured psyche of people, I'm not going to block them from doing that, of course, if they want to. But to me, it was important that your pilot having stresses and strains and fears and worries sort of spills over into when it's time for them to control a giant robot and save the planet.
Yeah, I love it. I love Tears of a Machine a lot. It was one of the first games that we played on the show way back, too long ago for me to feel comfortable referring to how long ago it was. But it is a game that has always been close to my heart, and so When you announced that there was a new edition coming, I was beyond excited, and I've read through it today. I'm going to be running us through a scenario, and I could not be more excited. This game rips. The changes that you've made to the system are absolutely cool as hell, and I'm really excited to kind of dig into it and really and play through a scenario.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So, why don't I go ahead and introduce our scenario a little bit, set the stage, and then give you an opportunity to introduce your character.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
So we are before the program, before Saints were recognized as an asset. We are in the early days of an invasion from above. Spurned on by the violence of rampant capitalism, the benevolent Legulus have transitioned into the violent invaders known as the Venator. Attacks continue above. The world as we know it is under siege and is transforming into something unrecognizable. We open on inside of a bunker deep beneath the surface of the earth. There is no flying arcs. That is years away. But for now, we are in a bunker. We are in an early test program for a top secret research program funded by the organization known as the Cloistered Research Council, the CRC. A group of scientists who, for the purposes of anonymity, all have donned masks and committed to finding a way to repel this invasion. And that seems like what it will be is a technology called the Saints. Giant robots built out of Venator technology. And that brings us to you. Alone and well, I will let you describe your emotional state, but certainly alone. Certainly you are an early test pilot in this program. Introduce us to your character.
Yes. Well, Evie, she, her, is always sitting by herself in the cafeteria space. This, underground installation is very utilitarian and so on. Like it looks like an old bomb shelter because it is an old bomb shelter. So it's, like metal tables bolted to concrete walls. She always sits by herself in a corner as kind of like an outlier to a lot of the people here. They are, hardened military personnel and advanced research scientists, and she's basically a kid who passed a weird kind of psychic test that said that she would be able to connect her brain up to one of these weird experimental machines. One of the advantages of character creation in The Tears of a Machine is that characters are made up of traits that are fitted into a little sentence. So actually, I can describe Evie by simply saying, I am Evie Barrett, a 17-year-old cautious criminal pilot who's good at bargaining, trivia, and prediction. Freedom matters to me, so I will seek forgiveness for past misdeeds. And there you go. That's my character sheet.
I love it.
For the most part.
I love it. I love how the character sheet is structured in this. It makes me I was reading through it and I was like, that is such a cool way to just like give you a character hook immediately. It is very cool. We'll get to know the other half of what you've got on your character sheet a little bit later, but for now, we're going to play through how play is going to work. The scene structure of a given episode is we have some pre-crisis scenes. These can be free scenes, which are sort of just like playing out to see what happens. And there are also task scenes, which are when you want a thing and you are going after it. Eventually, we will run out of those beats. The clock will tick down to 0 and a crisis will start. Spoilers for the episode that we are playing today, but that's going to involve the Venator. I don't know, maybe it's possible. But then we will play through the crisis, the fight, the dramatic climax of our episode, and then there will be a number of scenes after the crisis plays out where we kind of get a picture of how you've changed and what is coming next.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I'd like to start with a free scene of I want to set the stage a little bit and then just sort of see what a moment in Evie's life is like. I think that this is, like we said, this is an elaborate bunker underneath the surface. There are attacks happening above. We are in the throes of an invasion. We see various military personnel accompanying Commander Bridger, PF Battle Operations, walking around talking about various, tactics and developments. There are paper maps pinned to the walls of this kind of makeshift bunker, very kind of like carved stone walls that aren't quite smooth, but they've got like maps nailed to them with X's indicating battle sites. And Bridger is talking through tactics with some of his various associates. We get like a few brief shots of Bridger walks by a very kind of Doctor Strangelove looking war room where there are a group of people all wearing these masks and lab coats, like sitting around discussing things. We follow Bridger a little bit further down a hallway, and we see where you are at this moment. Where are you, and what does that scene look like? I think this is somewhere that is personal to Evie.
I think Evie actually spends a lot of time. She doesn't fit in here. Like I said, she's way too young. She's 17 years old, and she's surrounded by all this military hardware and super advanced science. I think she spends a lot of time actually in one of the briefing rooms, where she spends a lot of time on like one of the computers that's unlocked to her in that briefing room, just sort of like watching news reels and playbacks and so on, sort of on the big screen that projects up onto the wall there. A lot of the other time, she'll just sort of like dart around from here to there. She likes to sort of keep out of the way of stuff, but just know what's going on. So this briefing room is a great place for her to do that because, there's a data tap that's always open. And and it allows her to sort of be out of the way while at the same time staying connected to what's up, which is kind of the way she likes to be. She wants to be in the know, but she doesn't want to be in the spotlight if she can help it.
I love that, and I think that the scene that we kind of stumble upon, I think that you are kind of immediately presented with a juicy opportunity as a younger member of the CRC. And by younger, I'm still picturing probably like 10 to 20 years older than you are. But like a younger member of the CRC, somebody who is in sort of the grad student role, still wearing a mask, but it is a very his mask is very undistinct. Like it is a straight up like tragedy mask. Like it is not of any particular note. And he runs by with like a ream of paper and bolts towards the sort of the war room that we saw earlier.
I think that's a good cue for Evie to just sort of a lot of her movements are very kind of fluid and measured because she's cautious about things. She always wants to move quietly if she can help it. So that's sort of a cue to her to, stuff her hands into the pockets of like the beat up old flight jacket that she wears, and she, sort of slips up out of the seat and, and just like very carefully picks her way out into the hallway, looking left, looking right, looking to see who's around, and then just ends up kind of skulking in the doorway to that war room, like just to sort of see like, so what's going on in here? What are these people up to?
It sounds like this is a task moment. So it sounds like you are trying to get something. So I'm going to ask you to make a roll here because I think there's interesting potential if you do not succeed.
I see. So there's potential consequence for me being caught sneaking into the war room.
I think so.
All right. So let's look at the way that I've described what Evie's doing. So as I mentioned, she's cautious. She's moving in a cautious manner. With her criminal background, she knows the importance of being unseen and sneaking around and doing that sort of thing. But she's also very clever at prediction. She just has a sort of a sixth sense of what's going on around her. So I think that means that I've got Cautious, Criminal, and Prediction as 3 traits
Yes.
that I can use in this action. Now,
And so what's going to happen here is for each of those traits, each of those sort of beats from your character sheet that apply to this action, you're going to pick up one fate dice, which is a d6 with either a positive, negative, or neutral result on it. You're going to roll those, and then we are going to pick from those numbers something to represent the goal, which is whether or not you get the thing that you want, and then the cost, which is whether or not you suffer consequences. It is a little weird to be explaining rules to you as the game's designer, but I think it is sometimes it is valuable to just say it outright so the listeners. But I do want the listeners at home to know. It feels weird.
Hey, fair enough. I mean, I wrote them, and occasionally I do something wrong. Sometimes I skip a step. All right, so I think, let's see what I roll. Oh, wow. That's not great.
I'm excited. A great first roll.
I am looking at a minus, and a minus.
Oh, no. That's the worst possible result.
Things are very bad for Evie. Now, okay, so here are the things that I can do. Since, when I designed the game, I wanted to make sure that, sure, chance is a thing, but I also want there to be the option for some strategy to happen, which is why I'm going to pick one of those 3 dice to be that goal. But I also have ego, which is that resource I can spend to change the die results. Kind of like you spend willpower or whatever in another game. So the problem is I can only spend 1 point of ego on this. So is it more important to me that I get the news and the info of what's going on, or is it more important to me that I don't get any big trouble for doing it? I think I'm going to spend that point of ego now. So my goal die, instead of being a minus, is going to be a blank. So I do get what I want. I do get the news and the info and so on. So what do I learn? Just before we get to what befalls me, what do I learn?
What you learn is like you hear them talking, and you hear this researcher explaining things to some of the higher ups, and the 2 things that you kind of learn, because you've been kept in the dark about a lot of this, right? Like they've been running tests. You've been. I'm gonna ask. I have a question for you, but I want. Actually, I'm gonna ask it right now because it's an interesting narrative beat. What has your experience been like around the saint that you've been assigned, the towering mass of flesh and metal that you have been assigned as a test pilot for, the Thundercloud Echo? What is your sensory experience like the times that you've interfaced with Thundercloud Echo in the past?
I think it's been disorienting. That's kind of the thing. Like there's just a wash of different experiences. Like when I interface with the machine, it's basically a surrogate body, and that means I weigh differently and I move differently, and I'm my center of gravity is in a different place now. And then there's all these weird sensors and so on that I'm trying to kind of translate into sometimes I'm seeing an X-ray even though I don't want to. So I think that's kind of the thing. It's nothing so shocking or horrible that like I can't keep control of it, but it's just this sense of like I'm hanging on, but I'm hanging on, but in some cases just barely, and it's just kind of this sensation that everything is pulling away from me.
Yeah. So the 2 follow-up questions I want to ask. No, one follow-up question that I want to ask before I tell you what you find. I think the first thing that you hear is a report on how this all works. Like I said, you've been kept in the dark. Like you've had these experiences, but they're all very surreal. They're all very cerebral. This is the first time you've kind of heard like talk about like why you, and it is. And it also kind of points at an experience that you've had, aside from your best friend Josie, who is the sort of tech whisperer, the sort of noted mechanic of the Saints. Everyone here is considerably older than you. I mean, Josie's a few years older than you, but like they're probably the youngest other person, and everyone here is in their like 40s, 50s. They are people who have they are very accomplished because this is a very like dangerous, like high risk operation.
Mm-hmm.
And you're hearing talk about why that is, and it sounds like it has something to do with the way that your brain is, and like the sort of elasticity of your particular brain, of like the brains of someone in your age range. And it sounds like in a couple years, like, you won't be able to do this anymore. Like, whatever experiences you have here, whatever accomplishments you're able to achieve, whatever positives you can get out of this, if any, they're going to be short-lived.
Okay.
And the other thing that you learn, and this is a question that I want to set up for you. The last time that you interfaced with the machine, how did it communicate with you? Because I think the other thing that you learn is that the machine has the ability to interact in some capacity, but really only with the person that has interfaced with it, the person that has engaged the machine. Like, there is some sort of back and forth there, and like the readings, you can tell even behind their masks that they are terrified of this.
I think it's interesting because it's the kind of sense that doesn't come with words. The Saint, Thundercloud, when they connect me up to it, any kind of speech or whatever sort of comes from me, from my voice, but my moods and my attitudes aren't always my own. I think that's kind of how Thundercloud kind of communicates, and I think that the CRC people are kind of picking up on that, where like my tone will shift suddenly, my emotional approach to things will change, and there's a lot of aggression that comes into my voice and so on, and I think that when we kind of feel the influence of Thundercloud, it's not so much speaking to me in words as it is shoving moods at me.
I love that. That's really, really cool. And so, yeah, so the fact that I think they've sort of, I think this was research into like reading your kind of brain waves and your kind of like life signs and things, or your vital signs, and figuring out that like, oh, it's changing things. Like it is changing. like they're figured out that it kind of is feeding you emotion, and like they're like, well, if it's exerting will over our pilot, that is terrifying. And with that, I want you to tell me what happens on the cost die.
Yeah. Well, you as the director or GM are the one who gets to choose the cost die, but all we have here are minuses, so I guess that decision's made. So yeah, that means that I get in trouble. I'd already spent my ego, so I can't fix that. So I get a trouble.
You get a trouble. And I think the trouble that you get is you hear Dr. Marconi. I think there's hush, there's whispers, people are talking at each other. And when Dr. Marconi speaks up, everyone goes silent. Dr. Marconi is wearing somewhere between a masquerade mask and a plague doctor mask. It is gold plated. It is gold plated with that long plague doctor nose, but it's got feathers on the side. Like it is, and it covers his entire face. And it also, there are sculpted black tears under both of his eyes. So like it is clearly crying, but I think he leans forward. And the other thing of note is that his lab coat is red, whereas everyone else's is white. That is, it is clear that he is the head of this operation. Leans forward and speaks the trouble, which is well, then the test pilot must be carefully monitored. They can no longer be counted on as an objective reporter of their own experience. They can no longer be counted on as a completely loyal asset for us to count on.
Ooh.
They are suspect. Your trouble is that you are suspected by the CRC, who are overseeing this operation.
Okay, I'm going to make a note of that. So suspected by CRC. Okay, yeah, I think that's a good trouble. I mean, the trouble, that's fun because it sets up a potential future scene where I have to try and win someone over or whatever in order to get out. Because as long as I'm under that, then yeah, they anytime I'm interacting with the CRC, they got one over on me. Okay.
And because your goal was a blank, correct? Your goal was a blank, so we set down beats. Beats are the essentially number of plot beats that set up tell us when we are transitioning into our crisis and when we are transitioning into our post-crisis. So because your goal die was blank, we are going to remove one of our pre-crisis beats from the pool, taking us from 3 to 2. And I think I want to put you. So I think I'm gonna throw this to you for a scene, but the scene that I want to set up is, I think you hear all of this. You're leaning against a wall, and we see Josie, who is wearing Josie is wearing is wearing like a flight suit is the best way to describe it. Like is clearly a mechanic, but is clearly like a jet mechanic wearing like the like jet repair gear, right? Like it is vaguely military themed, but it I think has been, there are so many like patches on it in the not in the insignia sense, but in the like, I have patched together my outfit. Like, it's clear that they've been here for a very long time. She has worked on a lot of things. I think actually we do see some military patches being used as actual patches. It was like, well, I grabbed this company's patch, and my elbow had been worn out, so I put a patch there. Nice. I like that. I think that she has like come by, seen you, and like kind of like kicks you in the ribs a little bit, like playfully, as you kind of slump to the floor, just like gives you a playful little kick in the ribs, like, hey, loser, come on. Yeah, okay, sure. Is it time for another one of those warm-up test things? No, it's time to cut loose. You look miserable. Yeah, sorry about that, I guess. I don't know. Just looks like, well, I don't know. As so we'll make our way down the hallway too. I'll sort of follow her lead wherever she's going. What I want to set up, I want to ask you, and the scene that I want, whether it's a task scene or a free scene, is what is your downtime? What does your downtime look like here in the bunker? Like this is one of the, we have a number of questions that we wrote out that we're interested in kind of exploring here today. And one of the questions that we've written out is, how do you handle the relative isolation? And so this is kind of me directly asking you in scene form, like, how do you handle this relative isolation? Like, what is your life like when you're not in the machine? It's interesting. I think that a lot of what Evie does is to try and sort of stave off the boredom of being the only person around here like this, is that stuff like that eavesdropping and sneaking around and so on, and just like trying to sort of be in the background of everything. So I think actually part of what must happen when I get to hang out with Josie is probably a little bit of gossiping about what I overheard and so on. But I think Josie also dares me to do stuff like that. Like, hey, can you find out what Elmer is saying behind my back, or could you get a pen out of Instructor Marta's pocket and bring it to me? Like, I think Josie is kind of like, likes prodding me to keep being the kind of the criminal that I was, instead of in silly little petty ways, nothing, big. Yeah. But I think that's kind of our like co-conspirator, I think, is how it works out for us. I love that. So I think that the scene that I want to set up, and I want to, if you want to make a role here, you can. You can kind of decide what that role is. But I think the scene, So the scene that I think I want to set the two of you up in, the moment that is interesting to me there is this idea of I think the two of you are in the kind of commissary area, and there's cake, I think, or there's there's cake, there's sweets, like there are like celebration things, right? Like there's celebratory things, right? There's cake, there's bottles, there's stuff that is reserved for like a successful operation. And the two of you are in a position to, and I think that Josie is like egging you on to kind of steal some of this stuff.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. So yeah, so we're at the commissary. I think on the way there, like Josie, like you said, has picked up on my bad mood. But I think, as usual, she knows, rather than dwelling on it, the best thing to do is to just push me towards something else to distract me. Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm still a kid. So I think that so let's say that it is the commissary. It's like, kind of like a cafeteria sort of setting. There is a refrigerator case sort of back behind the food prep area. And I know that's where they've been putting things like bottles of champagne. And yeah, I mean, who's going to miss, one of those? Like they don't have anything to celebrate for a long while. It's going to be a long time for anybody to notice that. So I'm going to ask Josie to sort of set me up by engaging, the counter server in some very passionate conversation about the quality of the coffee, I think that when you present engaging the sort of cafeteria worker, like I think Josie immediately like pipes up and is like, oh yeah, we've been flirting for weeks, this is gonna be easy, like it's great, just what I want to hear.
So Josie kind of like walks off. The cafeteria worker is taking out trays and turns around, looks at Josie. The two look at each other and start like chatting, and you can see that Josie is like turning on the charm, right? This cafeteria worker who is she's like a little bit older than Josie. So like Josie, I think, is in her early 20s. So the cafeteria worker is in their like mid to late 20s. But like the two of them start going off, and like you have a pretty open shot at this champagne. So go ahead and give a roll.
Sure. Well, I mean, of course, I am proceeding with the utmost caution.
Of course.
I am drawing upon my criminal background.
Of course.
I think one of the things, I mean, Josie is helping me, and Josie is a link character to me. So I get to take a die for her because she's helping with all this. I think I can also call upon my ability with bargaining. Like I'm already writing the script for if someone turns around and catches me. Here are the list of I'm already writing off the reel of excuses that I'm prepping for that moment. Yeah. So
I was also gonna float. It doesn't matter because there's a maximum of 4 dice, but I was also gonna say that trivia would work really well here because this is such a tiny little gossip detail of like where they keep this. But I think either way, I think you've got your 4 dice.
Yeah. Yep. So we're at our max of 4. Let's roll them and see how we do. Hopefully better than last time. Oh boy, I am not doing well today. Okay, so I'm looking at a blank and 3 minuses. So I don't want to get in trouble again. Here's the thing. Well, no. All right. I am going to take that blank for my goal. So I will get what I want from this scene. And then it'll be up to you to pick the cost die. I think we know what that result's going to be. But for right now, let's let's enjoy my success for this moment. So the blank means I do achieve my goals. So as Josie is able to keep the server's attention, I casually, very casually, like just sort of like go to lean on the counter. And then, sort of out of the corner of my eye, as the second that I see both of their heads sort of turn away, I just sort of swoop down in one smooth motion And then I'm like, I'm practically crawling on the floor and just like, for a few quick paces to get to the refrigerator. I know where they keep the key, of course. So I immediately palm that off the shelf at the top of the door. Pop the lock open there and slide into the space. It's it's a big walk-in refrigerator, so it's cold in there. But I again, just with a few quick deft movements, dart my hand to the back of the shelf, pop up one of the smaller champagne bottles, like splits or whatever. Slide that out of there, and and then I wait by the door, the crack open of the door, just waiting for like a laugh or a loud sound that tells me exactly when when they are gonna be caught up and not interested in me. And when I hear that loud laughter, that's when I just slip right back out the door, nudge it shut behind me, and then I've got the bottle stuffed into my oversized flight jacket, with my hands jammed in my pockets, holding that bottle tight against me, as I then just kind of amble back out into the room and just sort of take up the same spot where I was leaning against that counter.
You hear the loud laughter, and then like you make your way up, but the thing you hear immediately after that loud laughter is Bridger barking at Josie.
Oh no.
Josie spins on their heels, staring at Bridger, who's like, Evie, where is she? She's not in her bunk. Two of you are up to something, we. And Josie initially is like, I'm busy. I'm working on something. And like nudges towards Janet, the cafeteria worker. Bridger's like, I don't care. We need Evie. Evie is due for, and Bridger, I'm picturing Michael. The casting in my head is Michael Rooker, from Guardians of the Galaxy. That's the visual that I've got in my head. Shoulders soften a little bit, and is like, they're talking about they're saying that she's due for some kind of intensive psycho screening. I don't know. It sounds ominous. I don't like the sound of it, but
me neither.
Damn it, if I'm gonna be the one that doesn't deliver her to. The ones in the masks are scary. You get it. And Josie, you see Josie kind of square up her shoulders, and like the two of them both look like obviously concerned. So the trouble that I'm adding I think you're going to have to immediately drop in. Go ahead.
I think I actually want to spend that ego point to turn that cost die. Okay. Because I don't know that I want to walk around with two troubles, but I don't. Well, what's the trouble you're offering? Maybe I like it better.
The trouble is I think it's a second trouble, but it's kind of an escalation of the first trouble that you are due for like interrogation, right? Like it is that they suspected you. Another one of the questions that we kind of laid out was what does Dr. Marconi intend to do if things go wrong? And I think that we have an answer, which is like they are going to like monitor every bit of your psyche to confirm that you are you and that you are not Thundercloud Echo.
Okay, I will hang on to my ego points because I might need them for that. I will take the trouble then. So the trouble that I've gained is what was it?
Due for interrogation.
Yeah, well, that'll be an interesting scene that has to happen at some point.
Yep. So we are down to one pre-crisis scene. So I guess the question is, do you go with Bridger for this sort of interrogation?
I mean, I don't want to, and I'm thinking of all the ways that I could just slip away or sneak out, but
you could.
But this is there are some very, very locked doors in this place. I mean, I could get away for now, but how long is that going to last? I mean, maybe it's better if I just sort of take my medicine. So I will slouch over in that direction and announce myself like, hey, Commander Bridger, so you're looking for me?
could have slunk. You could have slinked away. You could have slinked away. Okay, yeah. I gotta take you for a screening or something. And he. The two of you take the longest ever walk down a hallway, and he leads you to like this room, which like very interrogation room, right? Like one light. I think there's a very kind of sci-fi brain pan on one of the things. It's like it's the salad strainer with wires attached to it.
Yep.
And he stands there and he's like, "Look, you're a smart kid. Just don't get in trouble here."
Sure, I won't. Oh, by the way, congratulations on your anniversary. And I slip the champagne bottle out from under my jacket and I hand it to him.
Yeah, thank you. It's been, 22 years. We're really happy with it. God, who I feel like, who seems like they needed to celebrate something is Josie with that hitting it off with that nice Janet girl. I'm going to make sure that she gets this nice bottle of champagne. And he says all of this while also just shooting you the most knives.
I shrug. I'm like, I'm already in it. Like, how much worse can you make my life right now? And I will go over and sit down at the table and, slouch and tip my head forward until my hair, falls in front of my eyes and just kind of wait to see what badness awaits.
So how do you handle the interrogation? Build me a role for how you handle. I think what happens is Marconi walks in and is just sitting across from you and is just like they attach the sort of brain pan and they're just feeding you question after question after question.
I think a lot of what they're trying to do is establish my emotional state, because I think what's important to them, again, is that they're trying to decide where does the pilot end and the saint begin. I think a lot of what this is about is just pushing me to see if I'll act like the saint. Like they're comparing it to recordings and notes and so on of what they, what happened the last time they ran a saint operation. And they're looking to see if they can kind of provoke the same emotional responses for me. So I think it's a lot of like weird all over the place questioning, like kind of like the Voight Comp thing from from Blade Runner, where it's just trying to provoke a response, very provocative questions like tell me about your family. Okay, now what's your favorite color? Okay, now and then just in a very abrupt, loud voice to me, like why did you drop out of high school? And then going back over a lot of like personal stuff that then is just sort of tossed at me in a very aggressive fashion.
I love it.
So yeah, I think that's kind of how it plays out. And largely being who I am and knowing where I am and what I have to do, I think a lot of what I'm trying to do is play down emotions and just try to show that I'm in control, because I'm not unaware of what he is attempting to get from me. So I'm going to try and just keep it calm, keep it cool, be very careful in my responses and my answers, this, and things that I did wrong in the past that he wants to challenge me with. Okay, he's welcome to challenge me, but I know that I can start to make my life better by doing what I'm doing here. So this is that path seeking forgiveness for my past misdeeds is part of what's going on here.
I like it. I love it. Why don't we call this one more roll, since we've got one more roll before we go into our crisis. This feels like a good. This feels like a good thing to be interrupted by an alarm where you have to go fight.
Exactly. So, I've mentioned my cautious responses. That this does tie into my path to seek forgiveness for past misdeeds. So my freedom, freedom, hope is a trait as well. Obviously, we're talking about a lot of bargaining going on back and forth because it's about me trying to mitigate response and so on. And I think trivia, as you said, also comes into this. Just being able to know what to say and know how to say it. Occasionally, some of these questions are just weird, and I figure the more accurately I can respond to things, the better. And
love it.
Let's hope for a decent die roll this time.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, we got an interesting split here. We got a plus, a minus, a minus.
All right, now because this is tied to your trouble. Am I choosing both of these?
Yes, that's the problem. Since it's a trouble, you are going to choose the goal die and the cost die, So, yep, that's what trouble does. It hands over choice of the goal result to you.
Right.
So you can pick either a plus or minus for my goal. You can decide.
Let me look.
Decide my fate.
It's plus, minus.
Yes. I still have some ego left, so I could still try and turn the results.
You could.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to say you miss your goal.
Okay.
I'm going to say if your goal is to talk to me, tell me again what your goal is.
My goal is to show that I'm emotionally stable and well measured and everything like that.
I think that feels like a good thing to miss.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Marconi knows the exact ways to piss you off. And so I think that you get pissed off here, but I don't think that you get in trouble, because I think you avoid consequences, because I think that he wanted to get you pissed off. Mm-hmm. Like what he wanted was for you to get pissed off. What you wanted was to remain calm. And I think he gets what he wanted by pissing you off.
Yeah. So that also means the trouble doesn't go away because the CRC still is suspicious. In fact, perhaps even more so now, because I wasn't able to prove to them like, no, I'm fine. I'm cool. Everything's great. Instead, I lash out.
Yeah.
I don't think I get so angry as to like punch him, but the fact that I want to punch him, I think comes through loud and clear on their measurement equipment.
Yeah.
And that gets, some nervous looks back and forth. Yeah. The other CRC folks are kind of like clucking back and forth to themselves like, oh my, that's not good. All right. So that's the goal result. So yeah, you also get to choose the cost die. There's a plus, and a minus left to choose from. So the question is here basically, do I gain another, do you want me to have another trouble? Do you want me to get out of this scot-free? I still have ego I could potentially spend to mitigate, but it's up to you.
I think you get out of this fairly scot-free, but I think the reason is because an alarm goes off and they don't have time to put you in more trouble.
Gotcha. All right. So that'll be the goal will be a plus. Now there's a plus left over that we haven't used, and the good news for me is that if a plus is not chosen for goal or cost, it becomes a point of ego. So I've got able to bank a little bit of hopefully good fortune for the future. So there we go. So yeah, so the plus not taken becomes an ego for me. But yes, you said the alarm sounded.
The alarm sounds. Bridger practically kicks open the door, throws you like a momentarily concerned look, but like clearly at this moment, like. And throws you a momentarily concerned look. Marconi gestures two of his underlings, kind of like de-strap your head from the salad strainer. But like the second that you are out walking, this is a much different experience than it was walking with Bridger earlier. He is all business. There is no compassion between the two of you. He is explaining the situation.
Okay.
We have a high priority target that is coming under attack, and we need Thundercloud Echo.
Sure. Yeah. I'll do my best. I'm like, scrubbing away tears at the corners of my eyes with, with the sleeves of my jackets and so on. I'm like trying to like, I'm in that state where you can't really kind of look up. Like I keep looking down at the floor. I keep trying to sort of like raise my head to look in front of me, but the slouch just keeps catching up with me. So I keep just looking back down at the floor and right in front of me. Yeah, I'll do my best.
And he's like, you'll do your job, soldier. And he starts to explain the scenario. There is a topside military base. It is the highest priority, the highest security clearance. We wouldn't deploy a Saint at this stage in the test. We wouldn't deploy a Saint for just about anything, but this operation, this target, this asset, the work being done here is important enough that you need to protect it. it is important that you protect the base. It is important that you protect the personnel on the base. But the most important thing is that you protect the hardware that is deployed, that is like deployed and in development at the base. We need this location protected.
Okay.
It is a seaside base, or it is a seaside military facility, a military engineering facility, and a coven of locusts, which are the weapon swarms of the Venator, right? They come in a variety of forms. Some of them fly, some of them are tanks. They all kind of have this insectoid quality to them. A swarm of locusts burst out of the water and are advancing towards this facility. We have time to maybe deploy you and have you meet them, but it's going to be close, and you're going to get there about the same time they get there. So it is going to be a straightforward front side repel them before they get to the hardware that is inside the base.
So yeah, I nod in agreement. I kind of know that all this information is going to be fed to me again by the machine once I get plugged in, because once, he's all connected up, there'll be this whole like command room full of people in my head once I get in the machine again. Yeah, and I will go suit up. I'll put on my little scuba gear suit, and the headgear stuff on that, which I imagine is probably, I know in the book I've described it as this sleek halo with like gold on it. I kind of imagine at this stage in development it's probably a little more janky. A few more spare cables and
there's
loose,
a lot of cables. I'm picturing very kind of like Weapon X Logan look, where it's like it's got the wires. It looks very rough, but like you plug in and it feels like you've dipped underwater. Like it washes over you, and the sensors start popping up, and you start to hear like you said, there's a command panel, there's the entire group of people, all of the kind of CRC is kind of in your ear giving you the facts, and you're seeing maps pop up.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it kind of it all muffles out very hard. Like you feel yourself kind of dropped out of a plane is the only way to describe it. But like as that happens, normally you still kind of hear those voices, even if they kind of take on like a hollow quality. Now they start to muffle. And you feel kind of for the first time since you've been in the bunker, remarkably alone, remarkably isolated. Like the voices sound far away. They sound like they are trying to talk to you through the water. This is different.
Well, they're not just far away, they're small. I mean, they're just these little voices and little people, and now I'm Thundercloud. I'm 100 feet tall, or more than that, 150 feet tall, and I've got like, an entire, military arsenal strapped to my back.
And the one sort of the mood that you are fed, or that mood of yours that is amplified as we kind of kick off the fight, the one kind of interaction is you feel they're small and they're far away. Like you like that sort of that you like all of the frustration and the anger and the emotions you were feeling are just amplified by this feeling of loneliness, by this feeling of isolation. That is this mood that is being piped in, and that is this, and like as you see these insectoid tanks ripping across the water, you see the wake trails underneath them, you see several of them floating in the air, the big sort of carapaces are open, and you see the flapping wings underneath. You see them kind of ripping up, like you see the wave of it all above the water, and you feel your grenade launchers on your back, but like there's still that emotional that emotion is still there to process as all of this happens.
Yeah, I mean, now not only am I like the only, back there I was just, I was the only young person in the base. Now I am the only thing like me. There is no one else on this planet who is Thundercloud Echo. At least, not yet. Now because Thundercloud Echo is a test device. My look is rather unexciting. Just a lot of like flat gray painted metal plates, sort of bolted over the frame. That makes it look kind of like a very crude, knight in plate mail. Like the plates overlap and interlock a little bit, but it still just has kind of that crude, unfinished look to it. All right, so what are we fighting over? Because I know that when we're on a battlefield, we don't just necessarily fight the enemy; we fight them for things.
Yeah.
So what are our battlefield points that I'm interested in fixing?
I'm writing them out here. Obviously, there's the water itself, right? Like being able to take the water.
Yeah. Stop them.
Like is going to be a huge advantage. There are also docks, right? This is also a shipping yard. There are military vessels here. Some of them are attack ships that are kind of reared and ready to go, but a lot of them are also just shipping vessels that people are kind of like panickedly loading things onto. So the docks there's also related to that is a point of like I'm going to make 2 points here. I'm going to give you 5 points. There are 2 points for the evacuees, right? Like the people who are evacing. One of them is by water, like the ships that are on the move, and the other is like you see kind of the armored transit cars like going in the opposite direction, or the Humvees full of like researchers and engineers and builders. So there's the evacuees by water and there's the evacuees by road.
Okay,
just writing this out. And then the last thing that you see, you suddenly don't feel small as you look at what the last point is. You realize what you've been told to defend, and I'm going to write it in the document, and I hope that you're looking at are you looking at the last page? All right, good. There is like what I can only be described as a massive flying city that has been docked and has landed here. It's been half built. They are clearly building something to escalate this program to a much higher level. You are staring at what will one day be known as the Arcs, the location where the Saints program is located, where future generations of pilots will train to use their Saints. This is what they want you to defend. This is and you hear Bridger like pierces through the kind of like the voices that it sounds like you are actively trying to tune out, even if you don't mean to, right? Like you or the machine or one of you is trying to tune out these voices, but Bridger's voice pierces it, and it's like, that. Protect that.
Okay. Well, I think my path is pretty clear then. I figure we'll just take we'll start here, and we'll just take a nice leisurely stroll toward the oceans. So we'll begin by defending this Arcs, this soon-to-be airborne city. Well, if I can save it. So yeah, I will move to put insert myself between the Arcs and the oncoming Locust. I will raise my defensive measures. I have this optical camouflage coating on my armor. I will switch that on, kind of like with a thought, like there aren't any real buttons or anything for that. I just kind of imagine myself being invisible, and hey, it works. I am now partially invisible. I'll power up my forearm shields, and I will check that the grenade launchers on my back are primed, and I will move in to deal with them. Now, because I've got my shield up, I think I'm still moving forward in kind of a cautious manner. I don't want to let them get the better of me. I'm not charging in headlong. I'm not that kind of fighter. I make sure that when I deal with people, I take them on my terms. And a lot of that, I think, also comes down to prediction, knowing where the enemy will be, and just trying to be there just a step ahead of them. So as I'm kind of watching the Locust flow around the buildings, or clambering over things, or trying to get to the Arcs, I think what I'm going to do is again, I'm just going to be moving to try and head them off here and there. Hopefully like a quick shot here, a punch there, a smack there, or something, so that I'll be able to blunt their rush and hopefully turn them back away from the Arcs and towards something else.
That sounds great.
All right, so let's see if the dice tell me that I can do that. Now, I said I'm being cautious. I'm using my prediction abilities to stuff. I don't know that my other traits really hang in there, but I do get a trait die because I am Thundercloud Echo. I am a 150-foot tall super military machine that can see X-rays and, hear sonar and chew lightning bolts. So I think that'll give me something to work with. Let's see. I'm rolling the dice extra long now because I'm tired of having bad rolls. As if that's going to make a difference. Okay. This isn't so bad here.
All right.
I've got a plus and 2 blanks. So
Okay, that's pretty solid.
yeah,
That's pretty solid.
Generally good outcome. Now, since none of my troubles are in effect, because
Correct.
What do troubles matter to the saint? I'm gonna get to choose the goal die, and let's see. Well, I'm gonna put the plus up for my goal. I'm going to use the plus die for my goal. So as I move out into the field here, like this is kind of the thing. I mean, saints, I'm not just, I'm not who I was. I'm a weapon. So once I start to get into the flow of this thing, sure, my center of gravity is off and my arms feel a little too long. But once I start to get into the flow of things, like, a few quick steps here, and then, I see one of those locusts coming over a building, and I just come up and just smash that, force buckler against it, and I just, snap it in half. And, then another, a few quick steps over, and I'm rounding another building, and I'm just bringing my heel down on the head of another one of those locusts. Those motions become more fluid, more comfortable, and I'm starting to sort of fit into it. I'm starting to sort of ride the flow of the motion as I, move around one building here, quick smash there. And then, I grab one of the locusts off the side of a building and huck it down the street into another one. So yeah, I, with those deft back and forth actions, I just sort of finish the whole thing off by just striking a dramatic pose in front of the arcs, letting my, camouflage drop for a second and firing off, just a fusillade of grenades over my shoulders that, now that I've sort of blunted the force of blunted the advance of the locusts, the ones that are sort of piling up, behind them, trying to figure out what to do, then these, grenades just rain down in the middle of them and smash that advance.
Yeah. And that is exactly what happens. The grenades crash into a cluster of these tanks and they fall hard into the water. Our beats count for our battle goes down from 6 to 4 because you chose a plus for the goal.
Plus for that, yep. Now I still have since I played a plus for the goal, I also get to be the one who chooses the cost die.
That is correct.
So I'm looking at 2 blanks for that. Now I know there's a downside to having too much stuff here, but now I have a couple options, actually, because since I'm in the Saint, I can spend an ego point to turn a die result. But I also have all of this high-end super combat weaponry that I could use as well in order to avoid a cost. I could, use one of those devices. But it's early in the fight yet. I don't think I need to shield myself so immediately. So I am going to take a blank for the cost die, and that's going to mean my id goes up by 1.
So what you feel in that moment is you take control and you fend off, you watch 2 grenades go over the horizon and crash into a cluster of tanks that fall into the water, and you get a rush of adrenaline, you get a rush of dopamine, you get a rush of genuine joy. There is a moment of connection here. That isolation that you felt a moment ago has washed away. There's a feeling of genuine togetherness and connection. However, you quickly connect, it quickly clicks together in your brain. That connection is forged over the feeling of destroying things.
Yes.
That is the bond that is forming in this moment, and it might take active work to push that bond towards another direction, but there's also much more work to do.
It is the unfortunate truth that is the sense of purpose that I suddenly feel is the purpose of blowing up things. But Commander Bridger, your new weapon is safe. And I'll start moving in on the next point on the battlefield.
So you have secured the arcs, which means you take the point, which means that when the battle is over, we will tally up who controls the majority of points to determine who has won the battle.
Well, I suppose I'll try and be a good person and move to rescue some of those evacuees. If I'm moving from the arcs towards the ocean, then I guess the next thing to try and do is to get to the road there and provide some kind of roadblock so that the evacuees who are trying to escape in the armored vehicles and so on can get clear of the advance.
That feels good.
Yeah, I think my trick for that is, now that we're kind of in among the buildings and I'm away from like the big, launching space, I think that's actually going to be a little more that sort of hit and run thing where I will like duck out from behind a building. I'll fire off a couple of grenade rounds and then I will duck back and like go down a block and fire off there as well. I'm pretty tall, so I probably am actually ducking sometimes to get around some of these buildings without like catching too much of their attention. But again, I still have my optical camouflage is still working, so I've got that on my side as well. So I am still fighting in a cautious way. I'm
definitely thinking bargaining here because you've kind of made the trade-off to kind of fall back and protect people rather than take.
True.
It's probably what Thundercloud is like telling you to do, for lack of a better way to put it, which is like the direct attack, taking sort of the other approach makes the most sense.
That's true. I always want to, in Tears of a Machine, I always want to be doing it my way because that's when I get to roll the most dice. Okay, and I've got the one from being Thundercloud. I think Criminal might also apply because I'm also looking for the cheap shot. I'm looking for the moment to get in and backstab some of these bug monsters with my like I said, I've got those power bucklers on my wrists. There's always that time that I want to like get in there and just like when they're least expecting it, just drop the optical camouflage and just like throw myself down on top of them, smash, like
I love it.
Crush the giant
so
insect under me, and then hop up and switch the camouflage back on. All right, so in a hopefully successful round of little flurries and attacks. Oh, okay. See, apparently I'm just meant to be in the machine all the time because I rolled 3 pluses and a blank.
Damn. Okay.
So I again get to choose the goal. So, I'm going to take a plus there, and I will annihilate this group in those hit-and-run tactics. I think that by the time I'm sort of done with them, I think that the Locust are kind of... the ones that are left are falling back in a confused retreat, not sure which direction to go because they're just not able to track this target that, despite being 4 times the size of them, they can't keep their eyes on me as I move and smash one, hit another one there, lob a grenade in another direction, and soon enough they've just completely lost sight of the evacuees as they're trucking away. So
I think what happens immediately. Well, so pick your cost because I know I want to narrate how the machine reacts to this because I've got a clear picture in mind.
I have a temptation here because there are pluses. If I don't use those pluses, then that's more ego points for me. But I think I want to let that id rise by 1. So I'm going to take the blank for my cost die. I'll let the id rise by 1 because I'll still get 2 ego. That's nothing to sneeze at. So my id is now 2. My ego is now 5, which is the max.
All right, I love it. I think that and I would love to. This is Jeff saying that I'd love to just straight up change the rules for a moment. Because we're gonna drop down our beats by 2, drop us to two beats left in the crisis. Yeah. You've claimed the evacuees by road. I think the emotional experience that is processed here, because that roll was so strong, is that joy. That joy that you felt like I had mentioned you needed to kind of find a way to like mitigate that. I think that you did, and I think that like you feel that rush of joy again, and like you get it because like you watch as you like zoom in and your senses focus in and you pull up like grid views and like all these schematics on these various like cars that are rushing away. that act of because you kind of like pushed in that that flow of adrenaline being put into getting people into a safe position, like really did kind of successfully push it into a sort of place of like transitioning it away from being excited and joyous about fighting into being in joy about fighting like to protect people. Like it like you feel that change. It's no longer just I'm jazzed up, I'm killing things. It is now I feel proud that I've like helped people, and that pride like overtakes your entire being. So what I would love to do, you and you can make this call because your id and ego are mad. You've got more ego than id, so it is ultimately your call. But I think the machine locks in on those boats getting away, and like in the way that it's been like feeding you those emotions. I think it is pumping you with a desire to it's, for lack of a better way to put it, like it is telling you again. But like if you want to face it on the water or the docks, you can. But like those are the mood energies that I think the machine is pumping into.
Yeah, I think I am going to go for that. I am basically going to run, and like jump toward the water so that I can sweep away the locusts that are attacking the boats. Now, unfortunately, by doing something like that, I'm not using many of my traits. I'm not being cautious. I think prediction still comes into it because I am still trying to like figure out where attacks are coming from and so on, and I've got a pretty good head for that kind of stuff.
I think bargaining as well.
Yeah. Well, freedom definitely is important to me because it's about seeking forgiveness for my past misdeeds. I see that as the path to freedom. Yeah, so, you're helping.
Yeah,
helping. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So actually, So that, and of course, I am still Thundercloud Echo. I am still God of the battlefield. So I should probably stop rattling my dice around in front of the microphone, but I'm very excited right now. So.
Dice noises. There's a reason that I like rolling actual dice because I like the dice noises.
All right, so that's 4 dice for me barreling out into the water. There's less caution now at this point. The optical camouflage starts to flicker when I hit the water because it's being interfered with it. As soon as I can get near, one of the locusts, I'll just pound on them with the bucklers, like lift them up and toss them upside down into the water, and then just fire off another fusillade of grenades, just popping up off my shoulders, flying up into the air, and then raining down on top of the locust. I'm telling you, where were these dice rolls earlier? This is terrific. I'm looking at all kinds of things. Okay.
This is I love this. I love the fact that you're rolling well. To peel back the curtain a little bit, like we talked about like the questions that we had about like what was interesting to us, and what I said was interesting to me was like how you relate inside and outside of battle to the saint, and like we had said we wanted that to kind of be neutral positive, and you rolling really well here pushes this into a really cool positive place. So I love this.
I think as I am, firing off those grenade rounds and smashing the locust again with the buckler shields, and at this point, I think in a way I'm kind of surging forward, and I think I cap all of this off with a quick flourish that involves pushing one of the evacuation boats further out away from me, in order to hurry them on their way. I think as I'm doing that, I quickly address the command bridge to say, Marconi, Bridger, you guys should probably open that bottle now. And I'm going to take a plus for the goal, so that I will successfully rescue all of the evacuees.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. So go ahead and pick your cost die then.
Well, we got pluses there as well, so I'll take another plus. So there'll be no negatives for me. And here's another fun fact: I have another plus, and since my ego is at my max, what that means is I actually get to reduce my id by 1. It rolls over to start tamping down the other side of the equation. So I will drop my id from there. So it's all good news, all great victories. Everything is wonderful. I am indeed a god on this battlefield. This is what I was born to do. So everybody better respect that.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, so you there's a moment where several of the boats like tear up, and I think like an especially large tank rises out of the water, and what we see is like we hear you say like, you better break out that bottle, and we get this shot. Marconi is sitting head like mask in his hand on his face, like is just sitting not happy about this because there's there's a level of unity here that like is infuriating to someone that is operating on the assumption that you are not to be trusted. Bridger is practically standing up and dancing around the room. And so, but like we see that you just come up the shields on the bucklers on your wrists, you tear into this giant tank, cannons fire off, the tank is dismantled, the entire thing with you in it sinks into the water, you burst out, land back on the land, you take this point, our beats goes down to 0, which means we end the battle with 3 points to you and none to the Venator, which means that this is an unquestioned victory for you and for Thundercloud.
Yes, their survivors can scramble away and go and tell tell whoever it is who sent you here that I'm sending you back.
I love it. Which means that we have 1 beat for a post scene.
Okay, yeah, I think I've got a good setup for that actually. So
go for it.
I've been carried back to the the installation. I've climbed out of the control pod. I am no longer Thundercloud Echo. I am now Evie Barrett again. I clean up, change back into my my flight suit, and all that. All that sort of human frailty, I guess, comes back. But my ego is still 5, so I'm still pretty flying high on that victory there. So I think I'm actually going to go look for Marconi, and I want to basically confront that trouble of being suspected by the CRC. So I think that's kind of our seniors. I'm going to be trying to wrap that up. I'm going to go look for Marconi. When I can find him, like preferably like in one of the briefing rooms or something like that, and I'm gonna walk up to him. Still got my hands stuffed in my pockets, but now instead of slouched forward, I've got my head tipped back so that my hair is out of my eyes, and I'm just gonna like lock eyes with him and say like, "Well, you got the weapon you were looking for. Don't you think that I'm fit to drive it?"
I think that he doesn't say anything, and he just kind of like quietly walks, like is like glowering, and then just kind of quietly walks away, like quietly, like that was enough to like squarely put him in his place. like you were like that was what like you got to kind of shove that in his face, and he does not like not being the one in absolute control. So like I don't even know if you need to necessarily roll for this.
I kind of want to though, because I kind of want to
go for it. Yeah.
It could depend. It could. I think it matters how
it could backfire. It could backfire.
Yeah, I kind of wonder like, wait, what kind of grudge? Like, does he take away a real grudge or not? So I want to roll because I want to see like if I can break being suspected by the CRC to the point that it isn't a trouble anymore, or if it still is. It could go either way. I think this kind of thing, like him is he slinking away because like, oh, I'm embarrassed, and I'm gonna go make amends, or is he slinking away because like, I'm gonna get you next time? I
like that. Yeah, give me a roll.
So yeah, this is, I think bargaining relates to this. Freedom matters to me.
Definitely.
I'm not being cautious in any way. I think prediction. I think that's part of it as well. I'm kind of expecting that this attitude is I'm walking in from this victory. How dare he try to shame me after this? So I'm gonna, so that's 3. Midland results here. Okay, so I've got a blank, and a minus. I am going to choose the blank for the goal, but I'm going to spend an ego point to bump it up to a plus, so that I will not only will I have sort of overcome that trouble of being suspected by the CRC, but since it's a plus, I am also going to be allowed to choose the cost die. So, so as you said, he slinks away embarrassed, and I think it is more of a way, not so much of him being like angry at me, but more like kind of being embarrassed that he's been put in his place, that he's been shown that like
he doesn't like you, but he recognizes that he's been beat here.
Yeah.
And he's not going to push it.
Okay, so I'm going to clear away that trouble suspected by the CRC. And I'm going to choose my cost die. I've got a minus and a blank to choose from. I don't think I want to add another trouble. And since I already spent ego, I just have to stick with what I rolled. So I'm going to take the blank. Now a blank, when I'm not a giant robot, is an angst point. I'm going to keep doing that forever. Like to the day I die, I'm going to be saying angst instead of angst, just because of German classes. That's anyway. So yes, that's 1 point of angst, which is like some minor worries or so on. So I think as he's slinking away, it does still gnaw at me a little bit that, well, yeah, I showed him, but he didn't apologize to me. He just left the room. So it's a victory, but it's a little hollow because I was kind of hoping for an apology to be part of this. Well.
Yeah, I love it, and I think we see that moment. We get this moment of you. We watch Marconi slink off. We watch you kind of sit back. I think that the closing shot is you come is. There's like a note in your bunk that says champagne is waiting, and it's like it says champagne is waiting in the med bay or not in the med bay in the docking bay. You go over there and Janet and Josie are both sitting and they give each other a toast and they're like, "Come on over, hotshot." And the three of you sit and you look over at Thundercloud Echo. And like you just like we see this long shot of you looking at the machine, and like that kind of joy and togetherness that you felt like kind of rushes back, even though you're not necessarily plugged into the machine. That connection is there, and you begin to feel it in your being, and that kind of long lingering shot is where we end our story. And so that is game.
Yeah, excellent. Oh, excellent.
Hell yeah! This ruled. This was fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much for running. I'm always. I love this game. I mean, I'm so glad I created it. Honestly, I'm so glad that I get to share it with people. I mean, it's just because I am always surprised by it, and always in a way that I just find so exciting. That's why I'm so eager to be able to get it out there for other people to play with it.
It's so cool. I really love the mechanics of it. I mean, I love the world and the themes and the mechanics and all of these things. But like the mechanics of it like play so perfectly, and not to explicitly talk about the other thing that we've played on this podcast a whole bunch, but like this has given me a lot of thoughts into Wingsman that like I'm excited.
Yeah, I need to.
It's real good, and like the dice mechanics of this are so cool, and like they play into like. I can't point to a whole lot of other like mech games that like play in this style, like in this very kind of fast narrative style that aren't straightforward. Like I can think of games that are like crunchy war game style mech games, and I can think of games that are entries into the hashtag sad mech jam.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything that kind of fits into that middle space, and this kind of hits that exact beat, and it is the coolest damn thing in the world.
Thank you. I mean, that's, whenever I hear anybody saying anything like that, I'm like, great, I got it. It landed.
You got it. Yeah. You hit it. You hit it. It's cool as hell.
That's exactly the space I kind of want it to live in, is in that in that space where you can, you really can, you can see the importance of the emotion in the characters, and you can make mechanical decisions too. There's still one of the things that was really important to me was having that strategic thing, that strategic choice in the middle of, you roll your dice, but it's not just the dice. It's then you have that step of choice, that step of strategy where, you can, you're not at the mercy of the dice so much. That was really important to me, being able to have that give and take there. So, yeah.
Love it.
So glad it works.
Oh, it was so cool. Thank you so much for playing with me. This was a delight.
Oh, thanks.
So, real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you, your work, and the Kickstarter for Tears of a Machine SC online?
Well, let's see. The Kickstarter is going to be running from July 6th through August 6th, I think, 5th or 6th. Look that up there. But yes, the Tears of a Machine SC. I am kickstarting it not just to create the book, actually. One of the things that kind of drove me toward making this game was also the importance of greater accessibility. So part of the release, or a big part of the release, is actually going to be an audiobook version of the game. So when you go there to back it, there'll be you'll be backing a PDF and a book, a physical book, as one might expect. But actually, one of the more important features is that it's also going to be an EPUB read-along audiobook that's going to be narrated by a lot of podcasters, like a certain Jeff Stormer, and
hi, it's
exactly.
me,
and and streamers and so on who have agreed to let me have their excellent voices for this. So yeah, so you're funding that game means you're also funding this fabulous team of great voices to help me bring it out there as an accessible audiobook. But yeah, that's if you want to know more about me, on Twitter, I am at RobotClaw. If you want to know more specifically about the game itself, robotclaw.info is my blog, where I will be posting more and more stuff about this game, especially as the Kickstarter campaign runs along. And yeah, that's kind of what you need to know, I guess, in order to get started. There's a quick start version of the game that's up on itch and also on DriveThruRPG. That's got that's got the basic rules. It's got a couple of pre-made characters to help you get started. It's not the complete picture. It's just enough to give you a taste, really, of things. But I also have that as an accessible audiobook version as well. So if you're wondering what I'm talking about when I say, accessible audiobook, well, in addition to getting a quick start sample of the game, you can get a quick start sample of the, narrated audiobook experience there. So, so check that stuff out. And I'm, really looking forward to having the chance to just bring this game out in more formats and for more people, and just, let everyone else take a crack at defending the planet for a while.
Love it. I am so excited for this. Thank you for playing with me. Thank you for coming on the show. This was incredible. For now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap things up. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Russell for coming on to the show. That game was absolutely incredible. I so love this game. I love the story that we told. I think it's just really, really freaking cool. Please go back to Kickstarter and help me narrate part of this book, because I love this game. I love how it runs. I love how it plays. It just fucking rips, and I want to be a part of it. I want to make this happen, and I really hope that you'll help make that happen. Also, be sure to follow Russell on Twitter at RobotClaw. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. Join our Discord at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. Head to our merch store at bit.ly/partyofonemerch. And hey, if you enjoyed the show, if you enjoyed what you heard today, leave us a nice review on Podchaser or iTunes. Give us some love on social media. Tell a friend about the show. Anything that helps us grow and find new listeners and do bigger, better, and cooler things. You can also support the show financially at patreon.com/JeffStormer or Ko-fi.com/JeffStormer. If you like podcasts, and you probably do because you just listened to one for like an hour and a goddamn half, you should check out All My Fantasy Children, which is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast on the One Shot Podcast Network, where every week, my best friend, Aaron Catano Saez, and I take a listener-submitted prompt, we spin it into an original fantasy character, and we populate a shared universe one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday-ish at oneshotpodcast.com. Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming onto the show as a guest, or about press coverage of the show, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance, and as always, party on, everybody.